an Unspoiled Network podcast.
Hey, everybody. So this podcast is a live recording of a panel that Rashawn and I did with the two ladies from Black Girls Create, Robyn and Bayana. They have a podcast. They will introduce themselves in the actual recording, but they have a podcast called Wizard Team that they do. And it is really fun, and they were just so much fun to record with. And the subject of this panel was revisiting Ilvermorny and discussing what it would be like if we created a wizarding school in the United States that was appropriate to our actual history and the actual population of our country. So I hope that you guys enjoy the recording, and I'll be seeing you again soon with a second panel with Mark Oshiro of Mark Does Stuff.
Hello. Hi, everybody.
Hello.
I figure we can start from the end and introduce ourselves. Does that work?
Yeah.
Who we are?
Hi, everyone. I am Bayana Davis. I am the co-founder and editor-in-chief of Black Girls Create, which is a hub for Black nerds and creators. We also house a Wizard Team, or Harry Potter podcast called Wizard Team, of which I am one of the co-hosts.
I am Natasha, and I am the owner of the Unspoiled Podcast Network. Unspoiled Harry Potter is one of our more popular shows, shocker, and that's why we're here. And I started this because I wanted to share the books with a friend of mine who had never read them or watched any of the movies and was a little bit of a snob about it. And I wound up totally winning her over, and here she is in full Ravenclaw, so I'm feeling pretty good about it.
Hi, I'm Robyn. I am the co-founder and community person. I lead
Chief Community Officer.
Chief Community Officer at Black Girls Create, and also the co-host of Wizard Team, a Harry Potter podcast, and Bayana's cousin. I just have to say that because sometimes I'll say stuff and then people get confused. And it's like we're actually related, like by blood. So.
My name is Rashawn. I am the co-host of Unspoiled Harry Potter. I also co-host a couple of other Unspoiled shows. And as Natasha mentioned, I came to the fandom very late. I was a little bit obnoxious about how dumb these books were. And then I read them and had to eat my words. And some people who I don't have to name, though I'm looking dead in their face, will never let me forget how obnoxious I was about it.
What? So I invited Robyn and Bayana to do this panel with us because they did a really awesome panel last year about the problematic elements of Ilvermorny and a lot of the American setting of the newer canon that J.K. has written. As an American, and these women being black women specifically, there is just so much history that she just sort of sidestepped and seemed to not want to engage with when she decided how she just wanted to lift Hogwarts up and put it in the United States. And it got us thinking, what would it actually look like to have wizarding schools in the United States? Because chances are there isn't going to be just one. Mm-hmm. And how would it look considering our fragmented history with colonialism, with segregation, and all of that? How would that have affected the way that schools developed and were run and changed over the course of, the most recent American history, North American history? So, yeah, that's where we're coming from on this. Anybody want to take the lead, or I don't know if anybody has something specific that they wanted to start off with.
I mean, I guess for one, there would not just be one.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of the baseline.
Yeah.
Is that there's no way that there's only one wizarding school for the entire, not just the United States, but Canada as well. Like
And
for the whole North America.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Mexico's
just not.
Mexico's North America.
Okay, Mexico too. Mm-hmm. How?
Yeah.
So we're in Texas. How many people are Texans here? Well, how many
Hey
of
now.
y'all would have been? How many of your parents would have allowed you at 11 to go to New England for school and not come back? So, I mean, my mom wouldn't even let me spend the night at other people's houses until. My mom still won't let me spend the night at other people's houses. I'm a full adult. So, like, the idea of going from, I'm from California, but the idea of packing up everything when you're 11 and going to New England.
Yeah.
Yikes, especially as a person of color, where that is a danger. It's not even just like a strange problem, it's dangerous. So, yeah. Wouldn't just be one.
You had shared because I made a little group for us to brainstorm a little bit before we came in here, and Bayana had shared that J.K. had at one point said that it was like a 1 to 10 ratio, right, of wizards to muggles. So we're looking at, in the United States, roughly 20 million wizards. And granted, they're not all going to be school age, but that's, I mean, we're figuring
20 million,
one per
you could
state
guess at
minimum,
least.
right?
Yeah, it would have to be. I mean, there's just no way. And it's like numbers wise, it's also culturally speaking, it's also like Robyn is saying, who's going to let, not everybody's going to just let, especially Muggle-born. They're like, oh, you're going to this magical school on the other side of the country. No. Mm-hmm. There has to, the other thing too is maybe there are some boarding schools, but some should send you home after 3:00. There should just, it also depends on what people need. I'm sure it's so big everybody can't be on board. Even just thinking about how humans don't get along with each other a lot, and there has to be a lot of politics around that. And so how do you just have one school with all, it just sounds like a mess.
Yeah, I figure the way that because we were the thing that I was really thinking about was the history of Native Americans being forced to assimilate via boarding schools. So specifically, Native Americans who are wizards and are they're not going to be wanting to send their child to a school. There's just so much baggage around that I don't think they would be agreeing. So then we have to look at, would colonial wizards be forcing Native kids to go to or would they be creating a sort of secret group that they were educating within and using it as a sort of a cultural preservation as well.
There's also the pedagogy around it. So there are a lot of different factors that go into what school you send your child to or what school they go to. And from J.K. Rowling's perspective, especially in the writings of Magic in North America, it's a very colonial mindset of Europeans brought the wand and that helps channel your magic, but it's the same thing as going to a school in which they abstinence only education versus a not to get into that minefield, but you know what I mean. I would believe that if you were a Native American and you grew up in a tradition in which wands are not how you would channel your magic, or it's more nature based, you wouldn't want to send your kid to a school that doesn't value those things, because then it's changing how the magic that they learn and how they practice magic, which obviously is a cultural thing as well. You know what I mean? How you practice, how you.
Yeah, that's a really interesting point.
So, if they had any say.
Right, exactly.
There's historical baggage of sending a Native American child to a boarding school, but then there's also the, practical, I don't believe in new math. Pluto is a planet type of, argument.
Yeah, I think that J.K. had said at one point that, I think, God bless, she said that basically racism doesn't exist within the
Listen,
it's
my favorite
How?
You got it? You got it?
She's ready.
One moment.
We've also done a panel about this. There was mutual respect and kinship amongst wizards, regardless of race.
Right.
Mm-hmm. She's got the screenshot. She can give you a timestamp.
For a second, I thought it was in my favorites. It's not, but it's fine.
But yeah, if we're operating under that assumption, let's say, even though it's so obviously could not be true, but let's say that's true, then there isn't going to be that forced, right? Okay, yeah.
Okay, so it says, there was a mutual respect and a sense of kinship between all wizards, no matter what their race. This was 7:42 a.m. Pacific time, because actually no, Central time, because I was in Chicago at the time. March 8th, 2016.
I love this so much. Where's the stenographer? We need to make sure.
But I mean, she says this in response to someone asking her, like, what about all of the different racial dynamics in the United States that exist? And also, she says it after, I don't remember if this was before or after Ilvermorny. It was around that time when the Ilvermorny, like, article came out on Pottermore, where, like, she specifically writes that the, like, European wizards knew that there were Native American wizards in the United States, and instead, and, like, you know, I don't know that they interacted, but at least they knew that they existed and knew that, you know, the United States existed, or not the United States, the Americas existed. And still, when it came time when, like, Muggle colonizers are coming over to America, instead of being like, oh no, we're gonna, like, hang out with our wizard friends over here, they align with the colonizers, right? They come in and they're just like, oh yeah, we're running away from persecution too, and, like, we're just gonna, like, set up our school here, and, you know, whatever, we're here. And so to have that be the thing, and then to also write, like, tell someone that is just categorically false.
Also, wait, no, it's too early.
Okay.
It's too early.
I have a Serafina rant, but we'll get to it. But I was thinking about, so there is the idea of immigration. And so there are some people who immigrated here, and then there are some people who were forced here in chains. And the idea of aligning with that as well, right? Because if you're able to know that there are a people in the Americas, and there's a magical peoples in the Americas, and you would also know that there are magical peoples in Africa and around the world, and you are in silence co-signing the idea of slavery, co-signing the Americas were built not by immigrants, but by forced labor, and so so in coming over with the other Europeans, you're also co-signing that. So there's, like, all of these layers in which if you're knowledgeable of the fact that there are a magical people in this land, and then you come over and you're taking advantage of the infrastructure that's being built in the towns and, you know, Makusa is in Harlem, then you're taking advantage of who built those things, and also doing so with full knowledge of who they are and the potential that they have as their own peoples. So you can't. That is categorically disrespectful in my mind. I don't think that that's mutually respectful.
The idea too that black people would send their children that far away to a school
in the Northeast.
But one, to think that such a school would exist at that time that was integrated, first of all, is just nonsense. And it's completely not paying attention to literally everything we've ever learned. Which is a bold stance. And
is bold the right word?
Hey, she's set in that truth, man. She stood up in it.
But also, if you think about, like, if you are have access to magic and you are in a community in the States that is marginalized like that, and you have this power, though, what do? Do you send your children away, or do you use your power to build something that is for you and of you, right?
You could be like Serafina Pickery, born of sharecroppers, and then just peace out, going to Ilvermorny. Good luck, y'all.
Bye.
That is such a weird...
I'm from Savannah, Georgia, but, you know, whatever.
I got magic.
I'm
out.
Sucks to suck.
But, like, so when I first heard about the Ilvermorny school, I was really excited because I thought of all the potential, right? Like, I imagined something wholly different than what we got.
Yeah.
And I just assumed there would be several schools across the country, and it would be much more of a regional thing, not just across race, but across region. Like, there's a Southern culture, there's a Texas culture, right? There's this very specific urban Northeast culture. And I thought that the schools would be reflective of that as well, as opposed to, like what Natasha called it, just sort of a a not as good version of Hogwarts and you just plop down in Massachusetts.
I mean, but that's even like it's like intentional and unintentionally that, because she has homegirl like we're gonna have 4 houses. Let's just choose our favorite magical creature so that we can like we're just gonna copy it, and then also the stories like it's just very
It's like a Walmart brand. Harry Potter. It really is. Great value Harry Potter.
It's Sam's Club.
It's Sam's Club Hogwarts.
Oh, that's so brutal.
Hogwarts Club.
Mount Shasta. That's my house.
I don't know. I'm in the Kirkland house.
Nice.
I too was with you. It beyond the like. I definitely thought there was like a regionalism. There's so many things about and places in America that I know nothing about.
Right.
Like being born here, living here. I can't even. I don't know the state capital of.
I mean,
a state capital of a state. It's not California. I don't know it. You know? So like, and I think that is also one of those things where you're talking about like the logistics of 20 million magical people of whatever ages. The logistics of you can't apparate very far, so you have to apparate like state to state.
Oh my God! I need to get to
like imagine growing up in San Diego, California,
and having to
apparate and you can't apparate until you're what 17. So
side along.
I mean, it's not a lot. I mean, they might change it in America because you know how we like to be like safety, convenience, convenience. But how many stops is that?
I love this idea.
You have to take breaks, though.
Plane ride.
Yeah, but you'd have to take breaks because I just can't imagine it being like squeezed into a thing and then coming back out like over and over, back to back.
You
it can't be good for you.
Gotta go to the bathroom.
Like you need to take a nap. You have to like replenish your electrolytes. You know what I mean? Like
maybe there's like flu
drink some
powder
alkaline
stations.
water.
Like you could have like designated fireplaces, like
Could
stations.
you imagine the flu travel from?
With that many people.
Everybody got bronchitis. It's a wrap. The smoker's lung. Like.
Yeah, I'm trying to because they have the Hogwarts Express, right? So would we have a setup like that where there is a specific train?
Like the
Ilvermorny Force 1.
The magic
Ilvermorny 1.
Well, I was thinking about like public transportation, but like
oh my God.
The National Magical Republic train, that would be awful.
We have already
it would be terrible.
Air travel is magic in and of itself.
Okay, fair. We've already established. She's already established.
How does it work? It's a metal tube that weighs tons and it flies fast. How does it work?
Science.
Magic. Magic. So we could have like hidden small, like the private airports and stuff, so you could do it that way, I guess. But the logistics of that.
That's what I'm saying.
Somebody said port keys. Even that is like that brings me back to the apparating thing, where it's like you're gonna be dizzy. Like you just need like rest stops to like.
Imagine having to hold onto a port key from San Diego.
Man,
to the tip of northeast. I don't even know where Ilvermorny is.
It's in the mountains.
Massachusetts.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ. You have to hold the little egg. You can't drop it. Don't drop it. Imagine falling out of the sky somewhere in like Iowa City because you had to scratch your nose. The logistics of this just make no sense.
It's very... yes. You just need like some like ginger ale and some Ritz crackers.
I flew into Dallas Fort Worth, and to get to where we're staying, it took me 24 minutes with no stops, and it cost like $50. But
what?
Yeah, well, it was like my plane got delayed. I landed at 1 a.m. It was a whole thing. But anyway, so it took like 25 minutes door to door. If you're on the night bus, and the night bus makes stops, and you're not, and then So the country is shaped like so it's not like you can just go straight. 'Cause
Well,
then
don't they
you're
go
missing the
like,
south and the
I don't know if
north.
they go alphabetically. At least the night bus doesn't really go in terms of
You go state by
distance.
state,
It
like-
goes by like the A's and then cities that start with B. I'm like, I can't remember if it's actually alphabetical, but they're just
You're
like
saying
bang bang.
the
You know,
night
like the
bus is gonna
pinball.
skip
It's just
Oregon.
like
Gonna go to California, skip Oregon. We're not there yet. Go to
no.
Delaware.
Yes, go to Delaware. Go down to Florida.
Go down to Florida.
Kansas.
Then Georgia.
Yeah.
And then Kansas.
And then Oregon.
Why?
This is the Wizarding World.
You could just build more schools.
Yes.
You can build more night buses.
I love what a rich
Why do we
well
only
this
have
has turned
one?
out to be. Just how to get there.
Why do we only have one
Why do
school?
we only have one bus?
Why do we only have one school?
This is all terrible. Holy. Oh my God.
You have to go in shifts. You have to put them in all different great halls, and then like you have to have multiple
Bayana
sorting.
went to a large
hats.
school in. I think it was large. A
High
large
school.
high school.
Oh yeah,
they
it was
had
huge.
buildings
It was like
building
30.
A, building
It was 3,300.
There were 30
kids.
people in my graduating class. What
Yeah,
are you
no.
talking about?
It was 800 people in my
800.
graduating class.
There are about 500 and how many?
That makes me feel
16?
so much better.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
Right.
Well, there are about 300 people in my school, and that graduation. But anyways, I don't because I was whatever. I was in the audience for Bayana's graduation, and then they had a dance portion.
Oh my God.
And then they had like the singers.
they could have just been like
graduation?
congratulations.
The high
be
school
out.
graduation.
They didn't do it. It was 3 hours long.
It was.
This is the blackest
it was-
thing I have ever heard.
It
was long.
It was at the Greek Theater where they
At
had
UC
concerts.
Berkeley. Yep. Because that's
You
the only
have
place
to
you
get
could fit. You can't
tickets?
fit them
Good
in. You can't
Lord.
fit everyone in our auditorium, so we had to go to UC Berkeley.
UC Berkeley, and that took 3 hours for them to graduate. And I, thank God her last name is Davis, because like I don't care enough. And like 11-year-olds, like they're not paying attention. Someone's picking their nose. You got to go to the bathroom. Like that's too many people.
What is the sorting ceremony for Ilvermorny? Like,
So they have like
They have to stand.
No, they have like
They
these
have the
4
statues.
thingies, and then it like breathes fire if you're a thing. I don't know if it breathes fire, but like
They move.
it's like woo, you're over
yeah,
here.
that feels
I'm a
way too involved.
nerd.
Like, I'm feeling like you need to make like a spreadsheet and get everybody sorted like via social media
Right.
before they get there. Like do basically the Pottermore quiz online,
or like maybe
and
the
just be
letter
I don't
you
know,
like
just take
touch the
that.
parchment, and then it's like, oh, congratulations, you're also in this house.
Exactly.
But listen, so I'm thinking there's
Then you
like
think about like the dorms,
Great
and
Hall
that's a whole
A,
other thing.
Great Hall B, Great Hall B point B6.
Well, no, you can't be B because the B burned down.
Oh, it burnt. Oh, okay.
So C.
C. You can't have 13 floors. You know how, like in hotels, you skip 13. Just the logistics of this is stupid.
Yeah.
With the Native American thing, with the culture that's coming from, if you look at the shamans and the history there, I think it would be very feasible that you would have the Native American magic would be heavily focused around transfiguration and magus magic. And so you would have kind of more of you would have separate tribes that would be branch off and kind of form in and of themselves that all share that unique ability. And with regards to there needing to be more schools, I think it would be really easy to see something like Ilvermorny as more of a university level school,
Grad
Like
school.
a UC
Nice.
Berkeley,
like undergrad, graduate, like a full university. And then there was a really interesting fan fiction that was written a couple years ago called Champion of Ilvermorny. And they actually tackled this issue to where they had it set up to where American wizards went through the public school system or private schools within their regions and did afternoon classes to learn magic.
Those poor kids.
Okay,
That's
but
brutal.
Also, that is more like That makes more sense than 11-year-olds going to Ilvermorny, which is what she wrote.
It makes more sense than a school that teaches you how to like look into the future, but not algebra.
I mean,
so I guess.
But do we really use that in our everyday lives?
Right. I was told that I would have to use algebra every day, and I have not yet had to put X, B minus Y. And now calculators exist, too. So
I was going to say, I remember you're not always going to have a calculator in your pocket. I'm not.
Lies.
Yeah, I mean, I was also, like, kind of going off of that. I feel like, because we know, like, for, like, most parents send their kids to Hogwarts, but they don't have to. So there's, like, a small, I guess, population that homeschools their kids. And so I would think that in certain, like, I feel like a lot of Native American wizards would be like, Ilvermorny, no. You know what I mean? And be like, we have our practices and we already got that together.
Also, we don't have a social safety net system the way that Britain does. So if you tell American wizards that you have to be taxed to send your kid to Ilvermorny, and they're like, not my taxes. Taxation without, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not raising my tax. Like, it just feels like.
That's an interesting question. Where does the money for Hogwarts come from?
And then some people wouldn't be allowed in Ilvermorny either.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
they're talking about, like, oh, everybody, no. No.
I would assume that there's taxes.
I just
For the ministry.
had a flash of like people lying about their address so they can get their kids to go to the better school, and then the wizards finding out that your kid doesn't come from that neighborhood. Because that's the thing.
The owl keeps going to this house,
right?
And you keep saying that you're in this. But owls don't lie.
No, what it is that's my mama's house, and I live with my dad.
Yeah, my mom and my dad. I spend the weekends there.
Yeah,
but like this is my actual.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I really figured that with the Native American community, they would keep it like, because recently I had been rereading some history about just how far into the 21st century we have gone with the ghost dance being illegal for them to perform it's just 1970, I think, was when that law outlawing the ghost dance was abolished. Finally, 1970. So I'm imagining a huge amount of Native American wizards just straight up going into hiding and just being like,
my God.
we're going to preserve this.
And I just thought about the
protect
food.
their knowledge.
Exactly,
right?
yeah.
Try to keep the food.
The food is bland.
Could you imagine, like, not having gumbo because there's like gumbo in Massachusetts, right?
No
No
tacos?
tacos? I'm out. I dropped out.
Nope.
It's Tuesday.
Shan't.
No tacos. No. Gotta go.
I moved down here to Texas from Connecticut. Listen, I wasn't ready. First of all, Dr. Pepper is not. Nobody cares about Dr. Pepper in Connecticut.
I like Dr. Pepper.
It's just,
Boo!
I'm saying,
I
didn't make the rules. And also, the gravy. Somebody asked me, "Do you want gravy?" And they poured some white thing on there. That's not what. And there's like all this just little things that I
Chicken
think
fried
somebody's
steak.
asking,
What
"Do you
is
want
that?"
dressing?" Of course, I'm thinking, I want some Olive Garden Italian salad dressing. Yes, I would like some dressing. And then they pile bread on my plate. I have no idea what's happening. Just like weird little things like that I wasn't ready for at all. And I can imagine these poor 11-year-old kids like being afraid to ask for any kind of food. People being like, would you like some? And they're like, oh, I thought I knew what you meant, like with those other 3 things, and I was super wrong. So I'm just going to have this piece of bread. Bread's the same, right? Do you always have bread here? Like, I feel like the culture shock for somebody, and I'm like a foodie.
You know they don't season their food.
They don't.
Nope.
I just got really distressed.
They would have to.
I thought for a second you meant literally satellites.
Maybe it's like,
and I was like,
You're like, now we're getting into some sci-fi.
maybe instead of like Ilvermorny School, it's like Ilvermorny School District. So there's just a lot of them, and then you just, we got like a common like test that you have to take at the end of the year or something. And like,
I could see maybe that's how like the
Also-
flute networks work, or like the satellites. Like you don't have to travel all the way across the country. You just travel to the specific, like maybe it's a satellite stations with like certain like fundamental classes, and then you travel into the weekends to the main school to do your like core or bonus or magical creatures, for example, are kept all in one spot.
This is exhausting.
Yeah.
So she said that maybe instead of if there are satellite campuses, they could use pensies and stuff to standardize the education. In case you didn't hear that.
A pensieve?
Yeah.
Ooh, how would that go?
So you got your professor of transfiguration being like, zoop, there's your pick it up. Like the same way you do with like homeschooling with when you sign online and you got one teacher in front of a webcam.
I love that idea. That's really cool.
Everyone has the mirror, the two-way mirror, but it's like a 50-way mirror.
oh. I want to say, because so they're asking about the Salem Witch Institute, and I thought that was the American school for so long. But I want to say it's like a women's club. I don't know. It was like some. It's
I
like
think of it as like Rotary Club.
I think she came back and said it was just kind of like a club.
They just kind of hang out, which is
or
disappointing.
like a think tank.
A think tank.
I don't know.
Yeah, like the nation.
They're pundits.
Yeah. Yeah.
I like it.
American Progress for
Oh no.
I don't know who was next.
Yeah, I'm
I
not
think
sure.
over here, yeah.
You don't go to the school comes to you.
How much
There
money
it
are
is.
you paying me to be night bust around? But then, okay, so then what is the personal life of those professors like?
Non-existent.
Yeah, I was gonna say, what personal life?
Right? They're literally like, they're like Tina Turner when she used to go on like Cher when she like was always touring. Still touring. I don't know.
Yeah, I feel like I like that. But then you'd have, I'm just picturing like, well, I was supposed to have class tomorrow, but they got a flat. So I guess I'm going to have to go to like my regular class and then come back and like change my schedule around. And that's super inconvenient. Like tiny houses. That's where that whole craze came from. That's what it is. Tiny houses were for wizards. I like it.
We solved it. Thank you guys.
I just wonder, we're having this discussion here in such a large geographical country, right? Like we just take up so much space. But we think about like multiculturalism here. Do they have these discussions in the UK? Like, do they consider what she did, what she wrote for the Harry Potter series and for Hogwarts? Do they consider that the same way, or that she excluded some people? And in that, I just wonder if they have those discussions, if anybody knows that. And then just for Americans, was she just deaf to it? Did she just not do her research?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it was
So
very
the thing
much
that we have to-
it was a promotion for Fantastic Beasts.
Yeah,
Like,
it
it wasn't
was-
like she was.
It was content marketing to get us excited to go see this movie. But I do know, my European friends are not Potterheads, but I do know that I have an Irish friend who, she lives in London. She's lived in London for a couple of years, but if you call her English or British, she will snap at you. So there are those things, but it's the scale, right? So it's like, it does make, there are certain things, like, you can think about like in terms of sports, right? So if your team is, I don't know, well, we're in Texas, football, maybe? Okay. So if you're a Cowboys fan, right? I'm not doing the Longhorn. I'm not going to. But if you're a Cowboys fan, you're a Cowboys fan. But then, if they get knocked out of the playoffs, but the Texans are in, you're going to cheer for the Texans, even though normally you don't mess with them, but like Texas over everything. No? No? Okay.
I love this. I love this.
So in the Bay Area.
In the Bay Area. Okay. Here we go. let me
This
go to where
whole
I'm
room just started to
comfortable.
grumble. It was all just like,
Let me go back to where I'm comfortable. I am a Lakers fan. I spent my entire life with the Lakers being amazing and not caring about the Warriors. I didn't even think about the Warriors. Like they're cute, whatever. Moved to Oakland and people are all like Laker haters, and I'm like, we don't think about y'all. Then the Warriors get good and the Lakers. And it has been a thing where like I still don't consider myself a Warriors fan, but when the playoffs happen, I'm cheering for the California team. Because we're better than you. West Coast supremacy.
No.
So
I'm from Philadelphia. Right?
Ooh, no. But
So-
y'all are different.
We are. We're different.
Y'all are different.
yeah, there's some other rules.
But so like Pittsburgh has 4 teams too, and so when the Flyers, the hockey team, get knocked out, and they've been garbage for the last couple seasons, and the Pens have been a really good team, but I do not root for them. They're the evil empire. Even though we share the same state, yeah.
But I don't know. The point I'm trying to make is I think that there is sort of a for the greater good.
Yeah.
Oh no.
That's not it. I don't know what it is. Help me. Someone help me. Somebody stop talking.
Regional
Loyalty, like a regional loyalty, right? Mm-hmm. So it's like there's your place, and then you extend it out and extend it out because we are tribal. Like humans are tribal. So you're always going to find a way to be a part of.
Find. And it's funny too what we do.
But I'm Team Mexico. If I have Ilvermorny or the school in Mexico, I'm going to Mexico. I'm not going out there. I'm just not. They'll have tacos at the Mexico, the Mexican visiting school. It's important to me.
Oh crap! I forgot what I was going to say. Oh well, it's gone.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Yeah.
But
Okay, let me talk about this. Yeah, so they're asking about the Civil War, and so this was one of the things when I was reading Magic in North America, and I was like, so she's just gonna skip the full, because I was like, okay, we're getting to the Revolutionary War, we're in the 17. Okay, I see what's going on. We'll see whatever. Okay, they sat that out, except like a couple who were like sneaky or whatever. Cool, and then it's just like. And then in the 20s, and I was like, there was another really big event that happened, like maybe 30 years, but just back it up a little bit.
It didn't happen for wizards because, there's no racism and there's
so
no...
that's the thing that doesn't make sense. Because on top of that, she was
this.
saying that the majority of them, at that time, like at this point probably not, but like at that time, the majority of wizards, witches and wizards in America were Muggle-born, which then stands to, like, in reason then that, like, so there are a whole bunch of Muggle-born, like, black people who are enslaved,
and
they're
how
just,
to operate, and they peace out.
And then they're like, bye, that's it.
Yeah.
And then when people are like
Good
popping
luck.
off, and the whole, like, the country is literally about to, like, it's falling apart, and the wizards are like, nah, we're good.
I know someone who knows someone who is on the Underground Railroad, and I can, give you directions. But
Directions.
Like an underground port key network.
No, because it's also illegal. No, because it's also illegal to, like, help Muggles. So then, like, what about all these witches and wizards who, like, want to go back and save their families from these positions that they're in, and they can't because then they would be imprisoned?
Where they do that at? Care about their family. Where that at? That seems fictional.
It's so striking to me that she wrote this whole series about a place and a time where it is a obsession with being pureblood that is driving the entire community apart. Mm-hmm. And then she writes a story for America, and she's just like, race? What is that word you're saying?
Racism? I don't know her.
Like, she just, like, how do you put that much into the story that you're telling, tell it so beautifully, and then say, but our community doesn't have a problem with race because we have great kinship or whatever that.
Well, I will
thing
say
is.
when we went to London to go see the that play.
Oh my God, not even a name. You don't even
That
say
play.
the name.
Y'all know.
The best part was that across the street, Nina Lima had a pop-up, and that place was...
We went there 3 times.
We went there, they're like, it's not that big. We're like, shut up, let us be. But there was someone who we told them what we do, and they're like, black girls, why would you make that distinction? We don't do that here. And we were like, we landed, and there's a Black Lives Matter protest at Heathrow, so y'all do that here.
Yeah,
You just don't.
Yeah, you don't like to talk about how you do it.
About it.
Yeah.
So I think that's a lot of it too. Is that there is such a strong culture of, and we interviewed the original Cheryl Skeet. She was the original like Rose.
Granger Weasley
in the play, and she talks about how in school in the UK they learn the American civil rights struggle. They don't learn about theirs.
Yeah, that's what.
Because if you don't talk about it, it didn't exist.
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of also what she, and obviously since she just skipped over this whole war, it's like if you don't talk about it, it doesn't exist.
There's a kind of a feeling over there, and I think most of it was more of a myth, but we're all just British, right? It doesn't matter where our families are from or where we're from, we're all just British. Mm-hmm. So I've met, black women, black men, who will say and have said right to my face, "Oh, I'm not black, I'm British." And then my head just kind of did this weird thing. But, what is the woman who wrote Ronnie Mitchell? Something. Well, anyway, there's a British writer, and she wrote about race from a UK point of view. And she talks a lot about how you supplant your identity of where you're from with this new culture that you're in. And you just do not confront it and talk about it aloud. Like it's in bad taste, Mm-hmm. Which there are a lot of people around the world that feel that way, that you shouldn't talk about it. But it's so different than what I'm used to. So reading these books and reading that statement she put out, it just seems so far-fetched and so tone-deaf, too, and just kind of really, really unrealistic. Mm-hmm. Just like there's no way any of this would work the way you have presented it. Like not a single piece of it.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I think all of those things are true, and also it still does exist. There's still like systematic and institutionalized problems that happen regardless of whether or not they want to talk about race. Mm-hmm. You can probably look at just like how segregated it is mm-hmm. and what the day-to-day life is that is different between Brits of different skin tones and everything. And
yeah.
It's still there. And so I think one of the things that Americans do, we are not truthful about it all the time, and we are not self-reflective enough, I don't think, or self-aware enough, I don't think, but you're not allowed to just ignore it.
Right.
And you can't get away with that because especially where we are at now, like you're going to get called out on like these glaring things. And I think the biggest problem I see with like the new canon and this stuff is that she thinks that she can bring a British sensibility to America and also because it was content marketing, be lazy about it too. Like she didn't want to. Like we know you can do the work. We read your books. Like we know if you wanted to, build a world, you can do that.
Yeah.
So I think that is also like the dynamic where she brings that sensibility of like I could totally get away with this, and I'm sure the fans from the UK who read Magic in North America were like, this is brilliant because they also are not thinking critically about it. So.
In hierarchies, and throughout American literature, you see that obsession with race and racism. And so I'm wondering if she's thinking about purebloods, she's thinking about class. And when we think about purebloods, we think about racism. And maybe they should have brought in an American writer to help her out there.
Well, so the thing is like, yes, but also she also talks about class. You know what I mean? Like she does the pure blood and whatever, but she also has like the Weasleys and the Malfoys and all these other. So it's like she does both. And so I think it can be, but it's one of those things where like, I mean, at a certain point, like what she intended at a certain point is like, who cares?
Definitely not fair.
I mean, it's difficult in that, like, I mean, I majored in English in college, and so it's hard because she's alive. So, you know, she does still say things, but a lot of times it's very much. A lot of times it's about how we take it as readers, and like, yeah, I think maybe someone who's like in the UK and who has that particular like experience would then maybe think of it in that way, and then we think of it in this way, and then I think they're both like true, I guess.
Yeah, this person had asked whether or not like she felt bad about it at this point, and it's really a shame because she has been confronted and chosen to not address it at all. And especially the Native American community came at her and was like, hey, it's cool how you just treat us all like we're the same exact belief system, that we're not separate nations, that we don't have separate traditions. And she hasn't engaged with that at all. And it's really startling to me because, like, it's sort of ironic that she would fail so much to see the importance of race in our history as a country and be so completely tone deaf on that. But then while we reread the books now in our moment in history in this country, it feels especially relevant to us because we're watching this happen within our government, and this like, and that is all motivated. There's so much white supremacy behind it. There is so much like the immigration and everything how it resonates with us as Americans. And then completely bypassed her in that respect is really kind of striking. It's just, I think that that's a sort of an interesting like lesson in how, up to interpretation, things that you sort of take for granted really are when it comes down to it, based on like where you come from and how you see the world.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she was the wealthiest woman in Britain. She could have just, and a team of people would have been there. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So we talk about this a lot on or I talk about it a lot on our podcast. I don't know. Bayana just sits there and is like, yeah, we talked about this already. But when she's writing the OG7, she's a woman of a particular worldview writing a story that she wants to tell with no sense of a reader base, nothing. She doesn't know if it's going to get published. She has a story that she wants to tell, and we can excuse and forgive a lot of things because she's trying to tell this specific story in this specific time. Once it becomes the Wizarding World, TM, and Warner Brothers and all of these things, and you have an audience and you know these books have been published in X amount of languages this many times, like how many people have watched these adaptations, you know who your audience is and who you're talking to, and I feel like she still has the autonomy to tell the story that she wants to tell, but there is a responsibility to not cause harm. And if you can respond to someone and talk about how Anthony Goldstein is Jewish, you can respond to the people who are saying you're causing harm to my community. And I do think that there's a level of PR, like just shut up. You ruined, you messed up. Mm-hmm. Don't say anything and let it hopefully blow over. But there's also this problem in which she is still talking, right? So she's still choosing what she's going to respond to. It's not like she just like shut down her social media and went home, in which case it can be like, that's a choice. But like every time that she responds to someone else, every time that she picks a fight with, Nigel Farage or whatever, like, and doesn't respond to the Native Americans who are saying you caused me and my community harm, and like multiple Native people and people of color, and I mean, however many people that she like that found offense in Magic of North America, and there's a litany of people. That's a choice that we have to reckon with all of the time, and yeah, I think that is something that as consumers we have to take into account. Like, we can still love these books and we can still love this world that she created, and she gets props for that, right? Like, she created this world. We're all here because of these things that she wrote, but that does not mean that we can't also be critical and call her out, and then also expect better from other people. Like, if you want to read about stories about, like, Native people, there are Native people writing those stories, and we don't have to take her word for it. We don't have to, you don't have to spend money to go see Fantastic Beasts, 2 Fantastic 2 Beasts, 3 Fantastic 4,
Fantastic Beast Tokyo Drift
5. Hobbs and, Scamander and Dumbledore.
That one got Idris Elba in it, though. I'm in there.
It's Idris Elba's in it.
Oh,
I'm going to see that
We're
one.
going.
Yeah.
But you had something there.
I was gonna, touch on the fact that, she dropped the ball on including like Afro-Caribbean traditions, like voodoo, and all, those things.
Santerias.
Yep, that's what I was thinking.
Of North America, like our history isn't just one segment in time. As we grew and expanded, the magic changed as well, because there were those people who brought their traditions along with them involuntarily because they were brought here in chains.
I mean, and there's also the entire. So we've talked a lot about like African Americans because that's Arlens and Natives because that was egregious. But there's an entire erasure of like Latin people, Asian people, like we're in the Bay Area, like Chinatown as a whole. They're still setting off fireworks in my neighborhood for Chinese New Year, which is impressive. But like, you know what I mean? Like, there are all of these different cultures that are it's not just this black and white binary of like, which matter to like me, but also I want to hear about what the magical lives of the Latinx population is.
I mean, just thinking about like the early 1800s when like California was still Mexico.
Right? Texas?
Right. We're in Texas, right? But like, what is that magical landscape like? Like, there's and I'm like, unless she's about to write a whole book on this, like, it's not to say that she had to go through every single plot point of like American history, because that's just impossible. And especially given that it's like she's writing it for a movie to come out, and they probably won't touch on that, and like, fine, but. It's just there's so much there that like you could do research on. You could hire other people to write and research. You could, there's just so many different things you could do, and then there wouldn't only be one, like, just circling around. There wouldn't only be one school in the Northeast. There'd be like, at least one per state. But even that is like.
Yeah, because I'm not going to the Bay Area school, y'all.
I mean, really, it's only
quinoas and your oat milks. Like, I'm just gonna stay.
I
The quinoas.
was actually thinking about language because it's like growing up, my first language is Spanish. That's what my parents spoke. So the idea of like me getting a letter in English, being like, "Hey, you're a wizard. Like, let's go, to this place," and I'm gonna be like, "Translate this."
Right.
I have no idea.
I always think that wizards. I always like to think that wizards have like the TARDIS translation circuit in their brain, so like whatever it was written in.
No, because Barty Crouch Jr. or Barty Crouch Senior had to learn like 30 different,
and all those things, different languages. Yeah.
But it also matters, like, you speak, like, you say these, like, spells and all this sort of stuff. Like, if my mom was a witch, she would teach me stuff in Spanish. That's what I would learn.
Yeah.
Like, if you're coming from, like, Korea.
And all the spells can't be in Latin. Like.
And Maxima is not a thing.
Nope. But that's not this panel.
That's a good point about languages, though, because she's just talking about Ilvermorny and just like drawing everybody in. And again, we're talking about Native American peoples who all speak a variety of different languages. What there would have to be a TARDIS translator built into the school for this to at all function. And then, yeah.
And also, like, just translation errors and things like that. Like, you hear about my best friend's Peruvian, and so I'll be at her house, and, like, her mom will say something. I'm like, what'd she say? She's like, it doesn't translate. I can't, like, one-to-one. And so how does that impact your magic, right? You're doing spells and things. Like, how do I can't just translate this spell. It would change the meaning or things like that.
Yeah, I mean, you were talking earlier about like just different focuses with magic and maybe not using wands and people not wanting their children to lose that. And for what if there was, a particular group of people that just didn't, it was all nonverbal magic, and how completely different that approach would be.
Like sign language and magic? Ooh. Somebody write that.
I don't know who was next. Do you guys know?
I think back here.
Listen, I think everybody's ideas from the audience have been gold. So
I also think that it's kind of great because unwittingly she's giving all of us this like lesson in like we're all taking like English class all over again, like authorial intent versus death of the author versus what I mean? Like we're all having to like grapple with these things. That's kind of cool.
And I like that there is so much that is set up in the original 7 books that we could point to like maybe it was flute powder, maybe it was a port key, maybe it was the night bus, maybe there are secret trains. Like just how many, there is an infrastructure there that is really fun to build from and use with this stuff. And it's just kind of amazing that we all have such a good time, like just spitballing and brainstorming what that could mean. And really beyond just like the responsibility as an author that she had to do her due diligence, but then it just seems like she didn't have fun with it. There is just so much, there are so many wild ideas that she could be digging into and so much potential. And I feel like she kind of cheated herself by not looking into that more and finding out, and what if she had tweeted, hey, I'm figuring out American schools. What do you guys think it would look like? And, she would have been able to write the book off of tweets in like a day.
I'm ready.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, it's it's a really British kind of thing that just doesn't exist for us in that way.
Yeah,
my brother went to
a boarding school, but it's...
And he did Monday through Friday, and he could come home on the weekends once he got older. But when I talked to him about his boarding school experience, especially when I started reading these books, I was like, did you guys have prefects? Is that like a thing? They did not. So there's just, I think a lot of the boarding school culture is just a given for British readers in a way that it's not for Americans, I think it's much more well received and accepted that you're going to send your kid away somewhere for boarding school in Britain. Like it just doesn't, you don't even really think about it. As opposed to like the conversation we had earlier where for us it's just like, I'm sending my kid where? For how long? No.
Yeah.
Who's in charge over there?
There was somebody...
I was just thinking that, yeah.
But I think that was more Crimes of Grindelwald than it was Magic in North America.
Yeah.
I
But
still have not seen it.
good, don't.
Because
don't,
she...
don't.
Yeah, no, you're good. You're solid. Yeah, because was she tweeting around like the time that it came out? Maybe. Oh, she didn't do that this year.
She's saying she's tweeting, J.K. Rowling's tweeting less, and like she didn't apologize for a death this year. They were trying to pinpoint when her tweeting diminished. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I could see maybe more hardcore fans starting to lose our patience with her, making her feel like she's... Because,
Yeah.
I mean, you know, we have an entire podcast, like all four of us, based around this, and we want to stan. And there comes a point where you just have to be like, listen.
We started the
we can't
podcast
ignore
to
this.
stan exclusively.
Yep.
It didn't.
I mean, if
work
you
out.
listen to back episodes of Wizard Team when we found out about Fantastic Beasts, when we found out about the play, like the excitement versus listening to us now. But I also think that there is something to be said about like the corporateness of it all. So like she's supposed to write these movies, and now all of a sudden the third Fantastic Beasts is being pushed back because they're like, oh, you actually don't know how to write screenplays. Maybe you should, you know, get off Twitter and focus on that as well. So there are a lot of factors that probably go into it, and we are out of time.
We are out of time. Well, guys, I'm just like, thank you so much for joining us. I think this is
Thank
really
you all
fun.
for coming.
Thank you, everybody in the audience. You guys had some really awesome ideas, and I really want schools on satellites now. So,
Schools on satellite.
thanks, everyone.
That was an Unspoiled Network podcast.